Centre somewhere, families in desperate straits, you may have seen earlier in my report. So there's a huge job. What are we going to do to house 125 families? You know, children need to go to school, people need to wash, they need food. This is a huge logistics operation for the council. Only when people have got their heads around that can we really start thinking about what we've been talking about, some kind of serious inquiry, investigation into actually why this building behind us turned out to be a fire trap for hundreds of people.
Well, we'll talk a little later then about the investigation and the challenges there, but for now, thanks very much. Mark Easton there for us. Well, Mark mentioning there those who've been injured because more than 70 people were treated at 6 London hospitals. 18 of those, we're told, are still in critical condition. Most are suffering effects of smoke inhalation. Our medical correspondent Fergus Walsh has been looking at the response of the 100 medical staff who were called to the scene.
For the third time in as many months, London's medical teams responded to a major emergency. Paramedics, trauma specialists and the air ambulance were all involved, some of whom treated patients in the recent terror attacks. The key, to stabilise patients and get them to hospital.
At St Mary's, we are caring for 16 patients, 3 of whom are in a critical condition. At Charing Cross Hospital, we have 4 patients, none of whom are critical. We are continuing to care for patients who are primarily suffering from the effects of smoke inhalation.
Inhaling smoke can damage the lungs and airways and may also cause carbon monoxide poisoning. Specialist burns teams were on standby, but it's understood they did not treat any casualties. 12 hours after it broke out, a toxic cloud was still billowing from Grenfell Tower, leading to concerned residents handing out face masks donated by local firms.
People are breathing in the smoke here, and there's lots of soot, and there's also, you know, toxic substances that have been used in the building that we're aware of.
And everywhere you look in the surrounding area are these blackened, sooty fragments. This children's playground is littered with pieces of debris which have floated down from the building and are what appear to be pieces of insulation from the outside of the tower block. And you can taste the soot at the back of your throat. Everyone's main concern is for the residents of Grenfell Tower, but there are worries too for those living nearby.
We find it hard to breathe, and we felt like we were tasting that smoke. So we don't know the damage this will have on our lungs. We have a lot of residents who are vulnerable, elderly people, people with severe disabilities, so we're concerned for them. Little children as well, children under the age of 5.
The hospitals involved say their accident and emergency departments remain very busy. They have asked the public to use walk-in centres or their GP unless it's an emergency, allowing them to focus on those injured in this appalling tragedy. The very latest is that 34 people remain in hospital tonight, 18 of those in critical care, and some of the staff on duty at St Mary's in casualty here today also treated those injured in the Westminster and London Bridge attacks. You know, day after day, they simply don't know who is going to go through those doors, but whatever their injuries, they must and do respond. Hugh.
Fergus, thank you very much, and Fergus Walsh there for us, our medical correspondent. Can I just remind you, by the way, of the emergency number that's been set up for anyone concerned for relatives or friends here in this dreadful fire in North Kensington. And the Casualty Bureau, the number set up by the Metropolitan Police is 0800 0961 233. Once again, 0800 0961 233. Now, millions of people around the world live in high-rise buildings like this. The main question, of course, is how to keep residents safe. And as we've heard, Grenfell Tower was completely refurbished last year. Some fire safety experts have already been saying today that they might be thinking of the cladding on the building as a possible reason that the fire spread so quickly. Our science editor, David Shookman, looks at the safety of tower blocks and how standards can be safeguarded and improved.
The wreckage of Grenfell House stands amid a cluster of tower blocks. Like many cities around the world, London has seen the rise of the skyscraper. Homes and offices perched high above street level with a host of safety rules designed to resist fire. But 8 years ago, a blaze at this tower block in South London killed 6 people. Southwark Council was fined for breaching fire regulations. And there are plenty of expert voices today saying that the lessons of what happened here at Lakanal House have not been learned.
Lakanal House demonstrated people were at risk in their own homes. The fire in West London last night, this morning, has demonstrated that they are still at risk in their own homes. These fires shouldn't be happening in 21st century London. We've got the ability to stop them from happening, and when fires do break out, to restrict them to small areas of flats or buildings.
One key question in the spotlight today is about the design of tower blocks and how they're meant to keep people safe in case a fire breaks out. Now, normally a fire hose can only reach about 15 metres. Grenfell Tower stands 67 metres high. In America, they rely on what's called active safety. Sprinklers fight fires in every room, but that can be expensive. The basic principle here, until recently, has been passive safety, designing the building to confine any blaze to a single room. Clearly that's fair. Investigators will want to know why. Another focus will be on the cladding fitted to the outside of the building, panels to improve insulation and the look of older buildings like Grenfell Tower. But dozens of fires have been linked to cladding around the world. 2 years ago, a skyscraper in Dubai caught fire and the cladding was blamed. New rules there have tightened up on the kind of materials that can be used. And investigators here will explore what role the cladding might have played.
In the UK, it has to be of what we call of limited combustibility, and I'm sure that's going to be questioned now after this fire, what exactly that means and on what these types of cladding systems are adding to the fire load on the building.
It was after the Second World War that councils answered the housing crisis by moving away from old terraced homes into new high-rise tower blocks. But their safety from fire depends on good design and careful maintenance. The London Mayor says people living in tower blocks will now need to be reassured. And fire professionals are shocked by how this blaze spread.
Literally every single floor was on fire internally. We don't usually see that. You see 1 floor, 2 floors, and then a hopping from floor to floor, maybe, over a period of time, but you would not normally see an entire facade on fire and then all the interior on fire at the same time. So that's what's very unusual.
So the fire overcame whatever safety features were in place. Last year, the government promised a review into fire safety in tower blocks, but then delayed it. This disaster now makes that work a priority. David Shookman, BBC News.
The scale of the tragedy here overnight meant that much of political business at Westminster was put on hold, including an announcement on a possible deal between the Democratic Unionists and the Conservatives. As we heard earlier, Theresa May said that she was deeply saddened by the loss of life here in this fire. Jeremy Corbyn said the fire was the worst nightmare and said it raised questions about the resources given to local authorities who were responsible for these tower blocks.
Totally shocked by it. It's the worst nightmare anyone can think of. A fire in a tower block, and sympathy, support and solidarity to all those that are stuck in the tower or have managed to be rescued or who've lost loved ones or don't know what has happened to their friends and family. And a huge thank you to the fire service, police and ambulance and all the other emergency services that got there so quickly.
Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader there, speaking a little earlier. Let's talk to Alex Forsyth, our correspondent at Westminster. Alex, how would you summarise for us the response at Westminster today to what happens here?
Well, Hugh, politicians, senior politicians, once again finding themselves paying tribute to the work of the emergency services after a major incident. Theresa May commended what she called